Hey Chicago, what do you say? This is the CHGO Cubs Podcast, our spring training coverage presented by Blue Moon, made brighter, Blue Moon delivered. See delivery options on bluemoon.com, beer.com/CHGO, get.bluemoonbeer.com/CHGO. Celebrate responsibly, Blue Moon Brewing Company, Golden, Colorado. What's going on, Kevin Wells and Ryan Herrera, Luke Stuckmeyer
in the
alongside
box.
of us? Yeah, what's going on, guys? What's up,
Penalty
Luke?
box. Hey, Cody's out at the Circus Sportsbook in Waukegan, biting his fingernails on his Illini at halftime.
Celebrating with all the diehards, no doubt about it. Shout out Will, Steve, Michael, and Eric and Steve, our new diehards today. So cheers, guys, and welcome aboard. Yeah.
So like with diehards, I got to mention, so we put out the newsletter a couple days ago talking about Justin Steele in one way he can kind of build off his 2023 season. And with that, the newsletter is free for now. I think we got one more free one coming next week, but once the season starts, it's going to be diehard exclusive. So if you've been enjoying them, make sure you're signing up to be a diehard. I also have made some additions to the player database we have. It originally was everyone on the top 40. Added a few of the more of the top prospects that are not top 40 top 30 prospects that are not on the top 40 man roster. So there's a few new additions in there. A few more are coming, including some of the non-roster invites that may be looking a little more likely to make the big league team or at least stick around and provide depth, whether that's in the minor leagues and stuff. So more of those on the way. So if you're a diehard, you have access to it. If you want access to it, again, it's player bios, 2023 summaries, 2024 outlooks, some of the content we've done talking about each of those guys. So if you want access to it, make sure you're becoming a diehard so you get that access. And it's all season. You have access to it all season. You can continue to look back at it. If a new name pops up on your radar and you want to take a closer look, we got that for you.
Yeah, and Kevin, you're over at WGN a lot. I don't know how much you know this, but the diehard program here taken off. It's taken off. It's the whole FOMO thing, fear of missing out. We're getting droves of people signing up, and it's a good time to do it, obviously, because the Bears have the number one pick. The Cubs and Sox are both getting started. The Hawks have Bedard. The Illini are in the tournament.
Did you see like all that new merch too? That's what
all
that.
the new
How
merch,
do you not get sold on some of that
yeah.
stuff, man? Yeah.
And we have the 20% off, like, takeovers and stuff like that too. Opening day is free for the party that we're having out at Country Club, but some of the takeovers during the season where we're going to be hanging out in the bleachers and stuff, you're going to want to get the 20% discount. Why not? But yeah, we are looking forward to opening day a week from today. Hard to believe, right?
It's going to be great.
We're finally here. A week from today, though, 6 o'clock, Country Club. You don't have to buy a ticket. Just RSVP so we know how many people are going to be there. Probably give away a little swag or something, would be my guess. And so we want to know if we need to bring, 5,000 pieces of swag or 40 pieces of swag.
Yeah.
Well, as long as you're bringing a couple of those CHGO pizza sweatshirts, because I want one of those. I will be at Country Club. I'm looking forward to hanging out with you guys there. Right. Yeah, like 1 week away, man. We're the final stretch, because the last couple of weeks of spring training just always – they kind of drag on for a while. It's great for some of the younger players, and it's great for some of us fans who, you get a glimpse into the future and things like that. But, yeah, Cubs dropped it down to 37 guys. Still a little ways to go on the roster. But you pretty much have an idea of what things are going to look like. So it's going to be a good fun start to the year.
But there was some major non-Cubs news that came out last night.
I almost said it was a boring end to spring training, and this is an unbelievable story that's only going to get worse.
It's really crazy. I mean, the whole Ohtani, the fact that it's Ohtani after the biggest contract in baseball history and the way his whole free agency went down, who do you believe? Who do you believe, right? Like, and how is baseball going to handle this, right? Like, how are they going to pull this off without potentially losing maybe the greatest player in baseball history, or one of them for sure?
There's so many parts to this story,
and I say let's just kind of
want to do a timeline of it first, because I think that first and foremost, there's like 3 different storylines that have been told by his interpreter, who's now no longer a member of the Los Angeles Dodgers. But let's start from the top. ESPN and the LA Times both reported that $4.5 million of Shohei Ohtani's money was transferred to his interpreter to pay for gambling debts. Gambling is illegal in California, so you're already committing a crime there. It's not legal there yet. And also, he was doing it with a bookie. He wasn't doing it with any of the apps in any other of the legal states. So first and foremost, breaking law using a bookie. But originally, he said it was for his gambling debt, and Ohtani was being a good friend and wanted to help paying him off. Then Ohtani's lawyer said, no. That money was stolen, and said that Ohtani had no idea about it. And this was the next day. This was earlier yesterday. And Muzihara said Shohei had zero involvement. So not only did he contradict himself, but the lawyer contradicted him, and he took full responsibility, the interpreter did, for this massive gambling loss. It is such a mess right now. Right now, I think the LA Times, I was reading the most recent article, it said that federal investigators aren't involved just yet, but they're going to get to the bottom of this. And if somebody's lying about it, it could be a terrible thing for baseball. But they continued to say that Ohtani does not have anything to do with it. But we don't know that yet.
There was no betting on baseball. It was on other sports. It was on soccer, yada, yada, yada.
I think that's the one thing that's like remained like the – as the stories changed, that's the one thing that's remained consistent was that no one was betting on baseball.
But keep in mind, this is not just Shohei's interpreter. This is like his best buddy. This guy goes everywhere with him. He was with him with the whole time he's been in the major leagues. They've basically been inseparable. And the Dodgers made the interpreter available to give that comment. And then you saw that night, you saw Ohtani and the interpreter buddy yucking it up in the dugout. And hours later, he says, his lawyers say that guy stole millions from him. Ooh, it's all I can say is it's right now. Don't get me wrong. I wanted Ohtani on the Cubs, but $700 million and this distraction going into the season. Can you imagine if this was the Cubs right now? Can you imagine if Ricketts had finally gone out and spent the $700 million and this was the result he got the last week of spring training?
Yeah.
Wrigleyville and Cubs fans would be losing their minds.
Yeah. I'm going to say right now, like it's still would take Shohei Ohtani if I'm the Cubs, right? Like at the moment, without knowing what's going to happen, still would for sure. Now that can change.
$700 million? You'd still risk that $700 million with this hanging over the head?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just because it's hanging over the head right now, we don't know what's going to happen. I reserve the right to change my opinion on that based on what comes out of this, because we don't know, because the story has changed a couple times already. I mean, like, think about, like, I don't remember who wrote the article for ESPN, who did the original interview, and then you talk to the interpreter, you get all this information, all of a sudden the next day the story's completely changed. Like, I wonder, like, I can't remember who it was, but I can't imagine, like, what their reaction was when they're like, wait a minute, you just told us all this different stuff yesterday. Yeah. Like, literally the day before. So, that's another interesting part is, like, not only like they did a full interview with just a different story than what became the narrative yesterday. So
which is why there's going to be an investigation that takes place, and there will be. It's just depending on the factor of they got to go all the way back to looking at his bank accounts and his statements, and but the fact that he contradicted himself in the matter of 24 hours and saying, "Oh, Ohtani gave this to me as a friend and I told him I'd pay him back," to Shohei had no involvement. That's going to raise a lot of eyebrows. It raised everybody's eyebrows on Twitter yesterday. Did you see all those memes about Pete Rose and everything? I mean, people aren't dumb.
$4.5 million.
Yeah. Also, you're his best friend. If this is true, you just wasted a golden ticket on life, man. Like, you had the golden ticket to life. Your best friend is going to make over $1 billion when all is said and done, and you had the golden ticket and you blew it.
Either it's true that Ohtani was just paying off a debt, right, for this guy and was like, man, you've got a gambling problem. Let's pay it off. The payments apparently did say loan at the top, but they came from Ohtani's exact account, okay? So either that's true, and I don't know if that means Ohtani's in trouble from baseball or not. That's to be decided by somebody else. But that's a bad story, let alone. On the other side, Ohtani is accusing his best friend of stealing $4.5 million. So this can't – I don't know how this can be Ohtani saying, like, getting with his interpreter buddy and saying, listen, this is the story we're going to go with. We're just going to say you stole it instead. Because the guy's going to have criminal problems for stealing $4.5 million.
Well, and that's the thing. You're facing jail time, and not only that, if this has happened before in professional sports, if you lie to a federal prosecutor about where that money came from and what you were betting on, you're facing even more jail time. And then there becomes the whole opportunity, well, hey, maybe we can have you testify against the actual bookie, because it all started with the investigation into the bookkeeper. That's where they saw those transactions, and they're like, wait a minute, where's this money going? Who? How? It's just getting worse and worse.
Yeah.
Where's all this money coming from? It is in MLB players' contracts. What's that?
Would the Dodgers still be on the hook contract-wise for $700 million if this was a Ohtani bet?
It is legal in baseball players' contracts.
Yeah,
they can gamble. It's allowed in their contract to gamble. They just can't gamble on baseball specifically.
And in California, I believe is what it said, that it's still illegal in California. So it's like, again, so like it's a very fishy situation, and I reserve the right to change my opinion.
Okay.
But I will say right now, without knowing what's going to happen, and if there's anything's going to come of it as far as Ohtani goes, if I'm the Cubs, I'd still would like Ohtani on my baseball team and go from there. But again, that may change, because if more comes out and there's any sort of trouble that Ohtani gets in it, it is. Instead of right now, it's like hanging over the head, but then it becomes a massive dark cloud and with potential for more. So it is a very tricky situation, and just one I was not expecting to see yesterday. And again, it's one that's still very confusing because it's so conflicting, and more information is coming out that I just don't know exactly what to believe. If
he was, smart, he would have just signed with the Cubs originally and just made all his bets legally right outside at Clark and Addison.
Yep.
So right at DraftKings, or with Cody and Circa right now.
That's right. So, he's been fine.
Yeah,
he's been fine. You know what I'm betting on? That the Cubs do not have the best first baseman in the division. That's what I'm betting on.
That's good bet.
Unfortunately, we did the outfield, and we were saying like Cubs have the best outfield in the division. It's pretty clear when you put all three pieces together, they have the best outfield. We know that the problem will now potentially be first and or third, right? That's where the trouble comes in.
Yeah, no, it's like you said, like the outfield, we looked at it, and the Cubs have one of the better outfield groupings. It probably have the best outfield grouping as a whole in the NL Central, but it's something we've talked about literally since Anthony Rizzo's got traded. Like, who is going to step up to be the next first baseman? They haven't had one, right? They've run out Alfonso Rivas, Matt Mervis, Frank Schwindel. Like, they've had a bunch of different guys try to stake a claim in that position, and they just don't have anything for it. So, yeah, I'm with you. The Cubs don't have the best first base group right now. Definitely not right now.
Well, it's unproven too, right? Like, because Michael Busch has never been given a fair shake with LA, and he's a first-round pick.
Well, I was gonna say we can bring the groupings up real quick. Cubs right now is Michael Busch. Again, these are not ranked. These are not ordered. These are just a list of names across the NL Central. Michael Busch, Garrett Cooper, and I put Cody Bellinger with a question mark there just because, like, he is technically part of that first base depth. Like, he's a starting center fielder, and unless something goes wrong, he's going to probably stay in center field for a while. But he is technically part of that depth. Patrick Wisdom is in there, although his opening day is in jeopardy, as we learned yesterday or the day before, whatever day it was. So it's looking more like Garrett Cooper may be there. But, that's the Cubs. But the Cardinals have Paul Goldschmidt and Matt Carpenter. Reds, Christian Encarnacion-Strand and Jamer Candelario. Brewers, Rhys Hoskins, their new signing this offseason, and Jake Bowers. And the Pirates have Rowdy Tellez, a former Brewer, actually, and Connor Joe.
Couple journeymen.
Yeah, a couple journeymen, but that's those are like the groupings we saw. And these teams have other guys that can play those positions as well. Like, obviously Jamer Candelario is going to be their starting third baseman in Cincinnati. So he may not, say Encarnacion-Strand gets a day off. It may not be Candelario moving over to first base. It could be someone else. But overall going into the season, this is appears to be the top of each team's depth chart.
And it's interesting, too, because you look at those groupings and you say, okay, well, clearly before opening day, Paul Goldschmidt's the best first baseman in the National League Central. Yes, he's getting older. Yes, he's aging, but we've seen so many guys get into their mid-30s that continue to put the ball over the fence. Goldschmidt, if he's healthy, he's going to continue to put the ball over the fence, and that's going to win games. His WAR is going to be pretty high. I think a lot of people are sleeping on Rhys Hoskins. I think
Just
a lot of
because
people forget how good of a baseball player he is because he was on a team of stars and because when he was in the World Series and when they were there, I mean, he obviously didn't play last year. They made it without him, and I think people will overlook the fact that the guy can hit 30 home runs. He's got, I think, projected this year his WAR. Let's see. Yeah, he's projected to be just over a 2 WAR, and his WRC plus is 115. So, again, not going to be an above, not an incredibly above average first baseman, but certainly a guy I would take right under Goldschmidt right now if I'm going 1-2.
Yeah, I can agree
Hoskins
with that.
is good. He's a good player, man. I wanted the Cubs to sign him. If
a lot of people
honest.
did, for sure.
I like Hoskins a lot.
Yeah. So, Luke, how would you rank those groupings in order?
I think it has to be Goldschmidt, Hoskins, and then everybody else after that. However you want to do it. I mean, I would put the Cubs third for the reason you said, Ryan. Like, if Bellinger moves into that position, which we expect could happen mid-season, especially if Bush doesn't turn out. Either Bush is going to be very, very good at it, but even if that happens, it's still potentially could allow you to move him to DH and have Bellinger play first base if PCA starts pushing his way onto the major league roster. So Fangraphs goes out. I was saying yesterday how Fangraphs is doing their power rankings by position for every team in baseball. They've done it for first base, and they have the Cubs ranked 25th. Bad. We know. Listen, Bush might turn out to be Rookie of the Year. That would be spectacular. I love the move they made. I think it's a great move. I like the idea. I still would have been okay with them signing Hoskins, but ranking them 25th, I understand it. It's probably their worst position on paper. On paper, it's their most unproven position and one of the biggest question marks on the team, right?
Wow,
but
yeah.
the possibility of adding Bellinger back to it takes me from 25 way up. Like no other team was only one team, the Cardinals, were in the top 10 in baseball at first base. Everybody else was down much further. Bellinger would potentially allow me to move him up at least with Hoskins and maybe higher.
Yeah. No, I mean, I definitely agree. Like Goldschmidt's absolutely number one, former MVP, still like maybe a relative down year to the MVP year the year prior, but he's still a really good player over there. And then Hoskins too, a really good player. Yes, he did miss the year, but he's pretty proven at this level. I might go like Encarnacio Strand and he may be my number 3, but only slightly above Michael Bush, because he doesn't have a whole ton of experience at the major league level. I think he only played 63 games last season, 241 plate appearances. So, but he even in that small sample size, like he was still pretty good, at least offensively. So probably put him above Bush, and then Bush right there at number 4, and the Tellez Joe grouping at 5. I mean, you mentioned Cody Bellinger. The reason, again, like I could see where you're coming from, but the reason I have the Cubs first base grouping still below Cincinnati is just because, like, I don't think, at least right now, and this is to start the season, obviously, I don't like Cody Bellinger wouldn't be like a plan B, I don't think, for the Cubs right now. Like, say Bush needs a day off, Bush needs a week or so, whatever it is, like Garrett Cooper, Patrick Wisdom, that type of stuff, it still feels like they would be the ones to fill in at first base rather than moving Bellinger off first base or off center field and over to first base. Like I do think, not that he's obviously not, he'd be a better player than those guys. Like that, you saw how good he was last season for the Cubs at first base. Like he'd obviously be the better option. He's probably still the best option on the Cubs right now. He is still the best option on the Cubs right now for first base. But just as far as where they want him to be, like I see him as just lower on the depth chart just because they want him to be in center field for now.
Well, and look at alone when the Cubs sent out the press release, we've agreed to terms with Cody Bellinger. It says right on the headline, we've agreed with terms outfielder Cody Bellinger. It didn't mention first base at all, even in the press release. They clearly want him. He's going to be the center fielder, and he's probably your third option at first base unless things get dire. Michael Busch, though, they're going to give him a long leash at first base this year. He's a guy who doesn't have a lot of experience at first base. He played more second and third in the minors and obviously did not play much with the Dodgers at all before getting traded. But with a first-round pick and the offensive skill set that he brings, he hits the ball hard, man. Mm-hmm. He's going to be an above-average league hitter this year. I don't know how many times he's going to put the ball over the fence, but because of his bat, he's going to get the leeway at first. So you're right. I don't think Bellinger's their second option there. Things get dire, an injury happens, then obviously you look to move PCA to center and Bellinger back to first.
Fangraphs, if you want to know, for the division, they went Cardinals 7th. They put Encarnacion Strand 17th. They put them second, the Reds. Then they went Hoskins, then Bush, then Tellez, and the Pirates 28th in the league. So they have a lot of faith in what the Reds have going over at first base. I mean, obviously, they've decided to move on from Joey Votto.
The Reds just seem to be the hot pick across baseball. Everyone right now. It's whether it's Ellie De La Cruz, it's McLean, it's Encarnacion Strand. They seem to be the hot pick to make some moves in the regular season, and obviously we'll wait for the proof in the pudding here, but they're an exciting baseball team, and I think Encarnacion Strand he didn't play a full year last year with them. He only got 60 or 70 games, so I don't think he played a full season. So now he's their starting first baseman moving forward, and Jamer will be their backup first baseman and primarily third, and he's incredibly league average. So I would incredibly average. Yeah.
So I think that's kind of we all kind of agree on that ranking and again with some guys like Encarnacion Strand, Bush, they could move up and down honestly, just depending on where they go, how their season goes. You know?
Yeah, Bush still has two options, so minor league options.
Well, I meant up and down the rankings. But he could be optioned as well, so it's not like he's going to be the first baseman forever. He is still an unproven player at the major league level. The Cubs are giving him the run to be the first baseman for now because they do believe in that. But it remains to be seen. And as far as the rankings go, like I said, some of those guys could move up and down depending on how their seasons go.
Be curious to see when we're done with our rankings if this ends up being the lowest in the division for any position that the Cubs have, right? I haven't thought about where I'm ranking them at third base. I haven't thought about catcher, bullpen, or any of that other stuff. Right now, currently, it's the lowest we've ranked the Cubs at a position that we've done. We've only done the outfield, so
and I think that's just being objective, though, because it's objective and fair. Michael Busch just hasn't played first base at the big league level yet,
Right.
A lot of this is, volatile for sure. It could change.
One thing that is guaranteed, guys, I need to tell you, is Ray Chevy. Best offers of the year during their March Radness sales event. Make your way to Ray Chevrolet on Route 12 in Fox Lake to join in on the savings. One of the top selling Chevy dealers in the Midwest, you're always able to shop one of Chicagoland's largest Chevy inventories. They have the perfect tailgate vehicles awaiting you right now at Ray Chevy during their truck month. For a limited time, they're offering 0% financing for 72 months on new Silverados with over 100 available, 125 vehicles under 20 grand. Seriously, guys, can you find pricing more affordable than that? The answer is no. And everybody loves the word free. That's what you get this month at Ray Chevrolet in Fox Lake. A free oil change. All you need to do is mention the four most important letters in the alphabet, CHGO. When you schedule your oil change, start off the year right. Schedule it. You have to do it by April 1st. Visit Ray Chevrolet in Fox Lake or raychevrolet.com. They've been serving the community since 1963. Find new roads. A new pickup would be a nice way to head into the summer, let me tell you. And Ray Chevy, they will hook you up.
Yeah, and you know who else hooks you up? Prize Picks. Prize Picks absolutely hooked. What is Prize Picks? Prize Picks is the largest daily fantasy sports platform in North America. Prize Picks is the easiest and most exciting way to play DFS. It's just you against the numbers. Instead of battling thousands of other players, including pros and sharks, you pick more than or less than on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. Football season may be over, but the action on the floor is heating up, whether it's tournament season or the fight for playoff home court. There's no shortage of high-stakes basketball moments this time of year. Get in on the excitement with PrizePicks, America's #1 fantasy sports app, where you can turn your hoops knowledge into serious cash. You can now win up to 100 times your money on PrizePicks with as little as 4 correct picks. You can turn $10 into $1,000 with NBA, NHL, and college basketball entries today on PrizePicks, America's #1 fantasy sports app. I'm looking at it right now, and I don't know how much Sarah's gonna like this, considering she's a KU fan. They play tonight, and not only have I picked Kansas to lose today, I don't believe in some of their players. Number one,
Hunter Dickinson. Don't believe in him. And that's coming from me.
His projection, more than or less than 20 points. I was looking at Hunter Dickinson's stats this year. He's only averaged 18 points a game this year.
Well, he just sucks.
And he's coming off injury. So I would pick less than on that one. And DeJuan Harris, who I like DeJuan Harris. I covered him actually at when he played high school basketball in Columbia, Missouri. His projection more than or less than 11 points. Sorry to say, like I said, I have Kansas losing. So DeJuan, I'm sorry, but I would my entry is less than 11 points for DeJuan Harris, because also DeJuan Harris only averaged 8.3 points per game.
But his assists, gotta love his assists.
Yeah, this is just points. It's just points.
Yeah,
he can. Sure. If he gives out 20 assists and only scores 2 points, great for him.
Yeah, that'd probably be a college basketball record, 20 assists in a game.
No, but yeah, so I've been playing PrizePicks recently. I have no idea why I waited so long, because it lets me pick against Kansas all the time, which is my favorite thing to do. You see my shirt, Missouri Tigers, MIZ. We're not in the tournament. We stunk this year. I'm not even defending them, but I don't like Kansas. So go to prizepicks.com/CHGO and use code CHGO for a first deposit match up to $100. That's prizepicks.com/CHGO and use code CHGO. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy.
It is tournament time. We're glad you're spending the time with us, though. Glad you guys are on with us. Thanks for hanging out in the chat and everything today. Sarah, were you being facetious? Do you not actually like Hunter Dickinson? I'm curious.
Oh, the amount of things I've said off camera. Yeah, I don't like him.
That's crazy. And you're a Kansas fan?
Yeah.
I don't like him either. He's one of my least favorite players in all of college basketball.
You got a Jayhawk pin on that?
He's very good.
No, I don't. Not yet.
Interesting.
Yeah, we can talk more off camera.
Yeah, we'll talk about it. Today's Cubs Spring Training Takeaways presented by Factor. Use code CHGO Cubs 50 to get 50% off your first Factor box and free wellness shots for life with any active subscription at factormeals.com/CHGO Cubs 50.
So our check-in today.
Spring training news. Like, we didn't really think we were going to have spring training news, right? Like, for our Factor takeaways. But then all of a sudden we find out we know 2 names for the starting rotation, and one of them is the Ass Man, fellas. He's earned that spot in the rotation. Now, yes, injuries have played a fact, but the Ass Man will be shoving when the season starts in the Cubs starting rotation. How about that?
What a just testament to the Cubs' depth in their pitching. We talked about it all offseason. We talked about it last year. We knew they needed to add a couple of starters, but just the embarrassment of riches that they can pull a guy up like Javier Assad just to be your 5th starter when he was really, really solid for them in both facets last year, bullpen and starting pitching. It's a great position to be in, honestly. Don't know how long he's going to be there. Don't know the severity of Jameson Taillon's injury, but obviously we know he's not ready for opening day. This likely signals a potential IL stint for Taillon to start the year. I don't know, but that usually would, being a 5th starter, that probably signals a quick IL stint for Taillon. I like this rotation a lot, man. I wouldn't have said no to adding another player to it, but I'm really happy that Jordan Wicks is going to get an opportunity. He earned it. We'll see what he does in year 2. We'll see if anybody catches on to him, but I love what he did last year. I love what we've seen in spring training from him so far. And Assad, whatever. I mean, you don't need him to be outstanding. He just has to be the stable force as a 5th starter. He's there as insurance. It's a great position for them.
Give you a chance to win. That's what they're gonna, because like you're talking about these back end of the rotation guys. Yeah, like their main job is to go out and give the team a chance to win consistently. And especially when you're considering Assad in the context of like Jameson Taillon's injury, as far as the reports that we've continued to get out of Arizona, it's still not a long-term concern. So it's, for right now, it appears that like Javier Assad, he is in the rotation. That's what Craig Counsell told reporters today in Arizona, but it doesn't seem like it's going to be a long-term thing. You know, it does seem like he's going to be in there making up some starts, you know, filling that fifth spot in the rotation. But when Taillon is ready to come back, like assuming health, assuming whatever, Assad probably would be the guy to move out of the rotation to make room for Taillon, right? Like, obviously Steele, Hendricks, Imanaga are going to be in that rotation. When Taillon's ready to return, he'll be in the rotation. That fifth spot seems like it was, you know, like Jordan Wicks was the favorite throughout the spring based on his performance last year in September. And when Taillon's ready to come back, again, assuming health and as long as the performance is good, it would seem like Wicks is probably the favorite to keep that fifth starter job when Taillon comes back, which would ultimately move Assad back into the bullpen, which I don't think that's a bad thing. He was actually really good in the bullpen last year. You know, that multi-inning guy that just kind of he had so many different roles last year, and he had a lot of success in most of them. So, yeah, like Assad, like you said, Kevin, he just kind of needs to go out there, give you some consistency, eat up some innings, and give you a chance to win. Like, you're not expecting him to go out there and throw no hitters or anything right now.
No.
You may not even be expecting him to go 7+ innings every night, right? But if he can give you a chance to win however long he's out there for the time that he is in the rotation, like that's all you can ask for out of a guy like that. And then with Wicks, I really haven't mentioned him, but Wicks earned this opportunity based on his September performance last year, based on what he's done in spring, and I expect him to stay in the rotation for a while, regardless of Taillon coming back or not. And, you know, based on what he showed us last year, and I've talked about it, the kind of mentality that he has, a lot of the guys talk about him as, like, already having a veteran feel, even though he's so new to Major League Baseball. Like, he's going to be a guy that I expect to do pretty well at the back end of that rotation, to be a guy that the Cubs can count on the fourth or the fifth day, whatever it is in that rotation.
It's the power of the Superman glasses, right? Both guys like to. Because we're talking factor takeaways for spring training, I'm curious what your takeaway is on this, because I think, at least for me, once we saw Taillon wasn't going to be ready by opening day, this is not surprising. To me, these are clearly the two names that I think Wicks was in it already, and then Assad has been added to it, but these would clearly be my options if I were the manager of the Cubs for my fourth and fifth starters, or however you want to slot them in. For my five starters, these would have been the options with Taillon hurt. Now, the question is, I'm curious what your takeaway is. Would the answer be different if David Ross were still the manager? Now, I was never a huge anti-David Ross because he doesn't like to play the kids thing, but I'm curious if you think Smiley would be getting the nod as a starter to begin the season as sort of a nod to the veteran if David Ross were still the manager. Is this one of the differences we're going to see with Craig Counsell?
It's a really good question. I'm glad you asked it. I don't think so. I still think Drew Smiley would have been a bullpen option for them. But I don't say that with 100% certainty behind my voice, because I don't know. David Ross rode Drew Smiley for a little too long in the starting rotation last year. He began to struggle, and he kept him in there, and then, you know, we saw him do pretty well in the bullpen, put him back in the rotation, failed again. I mean, it was kind of almost the lack of common sense for a little bit there with Drew Smiley.
I think the second one was someone got hurt. I don't remember exactly who it was. Like, there was a need for a arm to go back to the rotation, and that was why he put him in.
But that's when we were talking about bringing up a guy like Ben Brown or Caleb Killian at that point.
Well, Ben Brown, that was in August, right? I want to say, or
it was second half of the year. Yeah,
Ben Brown was hurt. I know he was hurt. No, I'm not completely disagreeing with you. I think David Ross did have a tendency to lean on the veterans, but I would also say, like, when you're looking at like Drew Smiley and Assad, like Assad's been up for a couple of years now. He's pretty established at the major league level. Not that he can't go up and down again this year, because I think he does still have options left. but like he's not like a rookie that has no major league experience anymore. So I don't think that like Drew Smyly completely outweighs him because he has 10 years or whatever it is in the big leagues. I also think like if it's David Ross, like he took Drew Smyly out of the rotation and put him in the bullpen last year. Like he did it. So I don't think unless Drew Smyly did something incredible this offseason to change his mind, I don't know that David Ross comes into this season like shifting back to like, okay, Drew Smyly's back in the rotation. I don't think that's an automatic as far as that decision making goes. I think it would have gone similar to how it's gone as far as like making these guys earn it, showing the improvements you made in the offseason, translating them into live BPs or spring training games, whatever it is, and having some results. I think that still would have been how it went, even if David Ross is still around. Maybe Drew Smyly gets a little more or maybe he's a little bit more likely to do it, to get the spot just because of the veteran presence. But I definitely see scenarios where it's Jordan Wicks and Javier Assad in that rotation regardless.
It's also a little different too, I think, too, because of the new bullpen pieces that the Cubs have this year. Maybe a little bit like lack of lefties in the bullpen this year.
Yeah.
So
that's another
having Drew Smyly start there, maybe, and that's a situational thing. The bullpen's different this year than it was last year. They sign guys, it's a little bit different. It's different makeup, it's different managing techniques. So I see where you're coming from, Luke. I'm more interested, though, if you want my honest opinion, I'm really interested how Counsell deploys some of these guys who could be hybrid bullpen / opener. Is he going to use an opener this year? Is he going to maybe want Assad to be an opener? They're just putting him in the rotation now.
Yeah, I was thinking like, is Assad? Could there be piggyback situations with Assad? Right? Like, is it maybe you put him out for 3-4 innings and then you bring Smyly in to cover some? Like, is that how they're looking at it? I'm not saying that's for sure how it is, but it's an option.
You don't want to burn him out. I mean, he's a really important piece to your bullpen. And down the line, look how much it hurt the Cubs in the late season when those guys were burned out and they had no arms left. I think that is something that Counsell thinks about intricately, and he did it a lot with Milwaukee. So that's my takeaway from this. My takeaway is going to be, how does Counsell deploy some of those guys at the back end? Is he going to use them more conservatively, or is he going to say, hey, let it ride? It's opening day too, so sometimes you scale it back starting out in those colder months at Wrigley and let guys, loosen up a bit. But I don't know. To answer your question, Luke, I don't know. I don't know if it would have been Assad. I don't know if it would have been Smyly. I think Assad is the better choice, though.
Yeah, I don't either, and I'll be curious to see. And he mentioned that Wisniewski is still in the mix in the bullpen, but he's another guy. How do they plan to use him once the season gets going? I'm assuming he's on the team, but he's another guy that you would have said was in the mix for that 5th starter spot, right? Yeah. Or at least they told us he was.
Yeah, no, I don't know, but like, yeah, the whole thing for me is like, regardless of who, because like one of those guys was going to be a starter and probably seen as the starter long term, just because like there was that 5th starter competition anyway. But for that now, again, I'm looking at it as like Assad as the 5th starter. I think Wicks is going to be in that rotation moving forward. But as far as that, what became the 5th starter competition, like it just comes down to, I don't think it's going to be for very long. Taillon, we don't know exactly how many starts he missed. It could be 2, it could be 3, 4, maybe, whatever. But it doesn't feel like it's going to be a very long time, whoever's in that 5th spot, before obviously Taillon comes back and reclaims that spot. So again, like regardless of who it was, like I like the Assad option. I like the Assad pick. I think he's a solid pitcher for this team, and should be, whether it's in the rotation or in the bullpen, should give them opportunities for success. But I do think it's like you're gonna give him a few times through the rotation. He just got to have some success, and then it's probably honestly onto the bullpen after that when Taillon's ready. That's just the way I kind of look at this, just because it was only a 1-spot competition prior to Taillon's injury, especially because it's not a long-term concern. I don't think it necessarily changes it after the first 2 or 3 weeks of the season, however long Taillon's out.
I can confidently say, though, one thing about this decision. my mental health is much better with Craig Counsell making pitching decisions than David Ross. I'll just say that. I watching Counsell from afar, covering him when I was covering the Brewers for a couple of years, knowing what he does with pitching staffs, we can all see it. You don't even need analytics to say that. He knows the buttons to push with rotations. So my mental health is a lot better with these decisions. I'm happy with it, and it's not forever. It's probably the first couple weeks of the year, like Ryan said.
Yeah, that's all you're asking out of him at this point, right? Like things will happen, right? Whether it's Assad, maybe even Smiley or Wisniewski later on in the season. Like honestly, I feel like at least they're all going to make at least a start or two throughout the year, just because injuries happen. Guys have to take an extra turn outside of the rotation. Fatigue happens, stuff like that. Things happen where you need someone to step up and take the ball to start a game. So I assume, honestly, all 4 of those guys, like the Wicks, Assad, Wisniewski, Smiley, like I'm looking at it as by the end of the season, they've all probably made at least a start. But right now with Assad specifically, you're in the rotation right now. Get those starts out of the way, but make them good. Give the Cubs chances for success while you're out there, and then you go from there. Like that's all they need him to do right now, because I don't think you should set the expectations so high on him, but like expecting him to go out there and give the Cubs a chance to win, I think is good for him. Right now in the rotation, I think he's proven that he can do that in the past. And he should be able to do that with the Cubs.
Super chat from Sir Silent of the Frogs. Moment of silence for Lovelady. He's been cut. Yeah, I think we'll touch a little bit on roster moves after that. But your beer's not open.
Beer's not open.
You got to open it up.
Tell me why
you're going to make me drink both of them? I think he's going to have me drink both of them. I don't know.
We should have a beer bet one of these.
Somebody's got to do it. Somebody's got to do it.
No, I was waiting for my turn to do the Blue Moon ad read. Let me crack it open real quick. I'm going to crack it open over here.
There it is.
Just in case you didn't hear it the first time. Blue Moon, we love Blue Moon over here. You haven't been around in a while, Kevin, but we've been talking about it like the last few weeks. Just it's Blue Moon. You wake up, we have a Blue Moon ready to go right next to you on your nightstand.
On the nightstand?
On the nightstand, Blue Moon in the morning. Then breakfast, Blue Moon.
Especially if your nightstand's one a mini fridge.
Yeah, honestly, we got our fridge stocked up with Blue Moon, mini fridge at the house stocked up with Blue Moon. It's Blue Moon all day, every day.
St. Patrick's Day, man. I had a couple Blue Moons in the morning. I wish you guys would have let me know about the nightstand Blue Moon, though. That's a great idea. I didn't even think of that.
Taking a shower after the gym, Blue Moon. Blue Moon's all over the place, but now the nightstand Blue Moon hits different. But yeah, Blue Moon, made brighter. Oh, I lost it. Hold on. What the hell just happened? Hold on. Sorry. Something happened.
Listen, a Blue Moon and an orange. The nightstand thing, Kevin, is if you're on the road, it's a bucket of ice and a Blue Moon.
You got to have a good college story about a nightstand beer, Luke. Can we?
Well, if you're at college, the perfect nightstand is the mini fridge, because then you can just reach down and grab something cold out of there, right? That's the nightstand you want. You put a lamp on a mini fridge. You keep your Blue Moon stocked.
Keep the Blue Moon stocked. Yeah, Blue Moon made brighter. Get Blue Moon delivered and see delivery options by visiting get.bluemoonbeer.com/CHGO. Celebrate responsibly. Blue Moon Brewing Company, Golden, Colorado.
And with Empire today, don't spill that Blue Moon on your carpet. Make sure it goes down the hatch. Don't spill it on your carpet. With Empire today, you get to shop at home convenience, the right product for your needs, quick and professional installation, and a low price guarantee. Empire today, the best place to get new flooring. So, of course, they have copycats, but Empire can't be beaten on quality, service, and speed. So competitors advertise low-quality products that Empire simply won't carry. Empire won't promise the lowest prices because anyone who does that is putting flooring in your home that they wouldn't put in their own home.
Oh, no.
They keep shopping for floors, simple with a curated product selection. Empire's philosophy is to help you find what you need, not to overwhelm you with thousands of choices and substitutes. What they leave out of their selection is important as what they put in. Empire's product team exhaustively combs through thousands of product samples each year to find the perfect styles. Our virtual floor designer, a great way to see how new floors will look in any space. It's easy, just snap a picture, instantly look how the new floor looks in your home. It's a really cool feature that they have online. Shopping for floors at big box stores can be frustrating. You might want to talk to someone today who was working in plumbing yesterday. Flooring is all Empire today does. They live and breathe flooring, so you can be confident you're getting honest, upfront advice. They pride themselves on their convenient shop and home service. They help customers shop for floors where they use the floors so they can see exactly what it looks like in their own home. Lighting and decor alike. Make the informed decision. Service our own warranties. If an issue arises, just call Empire. They service all warranties themselves. You won't have to track down a manufacturer's phone number. Schedule an in-home estimate today. All listeners get $350 off when they use that promo code CHGO. Restrictions apply. See empire.com/CHGO for details.
Yeah, I think The Godfather actually
Is he an Empire
went
guy?
with Empire.
Yeah, and he got the $350 off with the code.
Yeah.
Good for you, Godfather, when you having us over.
He said Empire hooked him up, and he is very happy with his Empire flooring.
Yeah. The Godfather's not happy about a lot of things if you see him in the chat. The Cubs don't make him happy very often. You know what does? Empire.
Yeah, he wasn't too happy with. We were talking about David Ross. He didn't seem too thrilled with that in the chat. All I saw was good riddance to bad managing, and then something else that went away. So glad you like your floors, though. That's always important.
He skews a little negative, but not when you're talking Empire. That's the one thing you can get a positive out of him about.
Shouldn't be talking negative about our second baseman either. The best second baseman in the National League Central, easily, not even close.
Yeah.
Nico Hoerner's a good couple feet above the next best second baseman in the National League Central, I think. I don't really think it's that close. We did our power rankings on that. The Cubs second baseman, obviously we only put 2 on there. Yes, we know that.
And they're not in order.
This isn't an order.
This is a list.
This is a rotating cast of characters. If there's an injury to Dansby, Nico's your shortstop. Miles is going to move into second base. If there's an injury somewhere else, you also have Madrigal. You also have Morel. There's plenty of guys that can play the second base position for the Cubs, but obviously Nico, your Gold Glove winner, your 4.7 WAR player last year, is the best Central Division second baseman, far and away. Matt McClain, young guy, going to be pretty good. Can hit, can run, plays a really good second base, and then obviously their backup is pretty great with Jonathan India. So this is all about groupings, though. So yeah. So who has the best group in the National League Central? Got to be the Cubs or the Reds for me.
Yeah.
I don't know who, though.
No, it's the Cubs. It's the Cubs.
You think so?
I think Nico Hoerner.
Just because of Nico, yeah.
Nico, it could end up being Morel, too. And you think about that, like he's still an option at second base if things don't work out at third. Like that's a spot where he could land if Nico were to knock on wood, have some sort of injury. The Fangraphs power rankings, they put the Cubs as high as 5th in Major League Baseball for their positional rankings. They like second base for the Cubs with Nico. 5th best. The only teams ahead of them, Rangers, Guardians, Yankees, and Astros. Those are the only teams ahead of the Cubs at second base right now. And then they put it's a position of power in the division. They've got number 5, number 11, and number 12. They have the Reds 11th and the Cardinals 12th. Then after that, they don't care for the Brewers or the Pirates. But again, it's another position, guys. It's another one with the Cubs. You can't argue that the Cubs are at the very. Even if you're a Cardinals fan, you couldn't say they aren't 1 or 2. They are. They're 1 or 2.
No,
I think it's clearly 1. But this is now 4 positions that we've reached. That they're at least 1 or 2, no matter who you are.
Yeah. No, yeah. I mean, Nico is probably on his own the best second baseman in this division. Like, I don't think that's an argument at this point. Like the way he played last year, he's established himself as a potential all-star second baseman. So, but even when you're looking at the grouping wise, like Miles Mastrobuoni actually had some success last season when he got a little bit more run towards the end of the year. Started hitting a little bit better.
And credit to David Ross for that.
Yeah, and he established himself as a potential utility player for the Cubs. Like I watched him take a lot of ground balls up the middle during spring training, and although he's also part of the third base staff, he's definitely say Nico just needs a day off. You're probably looking at Miles Mastrobuoni as your second baseman, depending on who's pitching and stuff like that. But that's probably your grouping. But I think Nico on his own lifts that grouping up pretty high because, I mean, you have, like Kevin was saying, Matt McClain and Jonathan India for the Reds, Nolan Gorman, Brendan Donovan for the Cardinals, Bryce Terang, Joey Ortiz for the Brewers, and I'm not sure how to say his name, but Leover Peguero and Jared Triolo for the Pirates.
Peguero,
for the Pirates. Yeah, I mean, you're looking at, like you guys have both said, the Reds and the Cubs are at the top, and I'd put the Cubs second base group right now above the Reds just because Nico has done so well and has improved so much the last couple of years that you're looking at him as like this guy could actually be an all-star second baseman if he puts it together this year, right? And like we've talked about, like he still has, he feels like he is a veteran, right? He's been up for a few years now, but he still feels like a guy that has quite a bit of room for improvement, right? Especially offensively. He's 26 right now, going to be 27 in March or May, I believe. So like he's still got time to improve and really establish himself as a really, really good second baseman in this league. I mean, yeah, Matt McClain, Nolan Gorman, young players and are probably going to be pretty good, but
yeah,
like
McClain's a stud.
Yeah, but
he's
like
a stud.
For going into this season, I'd got to put Nico and the Cubs second base group right now above those two. I'd probably go Reds second with McClain and Cardinals third with Gorman. And reading the Cardinals one, it seems like it's going to be a pretty big mix of guys that play second baseman for him. Like Brendan Donovan's going to get run. They even talked about Tommy Edman being in there as well. Like seems like there's going to be a bunch of guys that play second base, so it might not just be Nolan Gorman throughout the year, but it seems like he's probably going to start there for the year, and that's what we're talking about going into the year, the rankings. And so I'd probably have them third, and then obviously Brewers and Pirates after that.
Yeah, and for me, it's definitely Cubs number 1, Reds 2. I think Nolan Gorman is a great hitter. I don't think he's a great baseball player. I think he's a very average baseball player.
Average to below average?
Yeah.
Like defensively?
Yes. I would say, I don't know if I want to say below average because he can put the ball over the fence.
I meant like defensively.
Easily, yes. The only reason I could see the Brewers taking that number 3 spot, Bryce Terang's former first-round pick.
Yep.
They moved him around a little bit last year, but he's primarily their second baseman. He's going to be their starting second baseman there this year. There's virtually no competition. Joey Ortiz came over in the Corbin Burns trade. He's going to start with the big league club, but he can play third base. He could be a backup elsewhere, kind of like the Cubs have with just a lot of positionless guys who can move around and play certain spots. So I don't know if there's a lot of competition for that second base spot for Milwaukee. And also, Bryce Terang, not a household name, but does hold a flame to Nico's defensive level. Those two play.
Can he hit? That's their question, right? They want to know if he can hit. Terang.
I think his ZiPS projection this year was still well below league average. I think it said like 80 to 85 WRC plus. So
that's the issue. Is like he could be like you mentioned, first round pick, could be a pretty good player at this level, but it's like a lot of it does have to do with the bat.
There's a lot of talk in Milwaukee's camp that he's going to have a really good year from reporters that I'm still friends with up there that I've talked to about Terang. They like the way he played in spring. But again, right now, clearly the number 4th best. If we're ranking National League central position groups, he's still number 4 because of, again, the service time that Gorman has played the last couple of years. His bat alone makes him more valuable than what the Brewers can provide in that 3 spot. And then the Cubs and Reds far and away, number 1 and 2. And I don't think those positions won't change for me. I don't think, unless an injury happens.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if they can. Because like I said, Nico's just established himself pretty well right there.
Yeah, he's one of the best second basemen in all of baseball.
Yeah, and obviously the group of Matt McClain and Jonathan India, like I said earlier, India, former Rookie of the Year, I believe. So like, that's a pretty good mix of second baseman right there for the Reds. It's just that so those two feel like they're going to be towards the top for at least most of the season for me, unless things change.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think we're all on the same page. It's Cubs, it's Reds, it's Cardinals, it's Brewers, it's Pirates. Like that's the way it is. I just think it's interesting that the Cubs now have of the positions we've looked at, 4 out of 5. They're showing that they're the class of the division. It's starting to stack up. We're not going to do our season predictions podcast until Wednesday, the day right before opening day. We're going to save that. Stucky stats will not hit the internet until Wednesday night. But the way we're looking at it is right now, the Cubs are starting to look like they are the class, the division. Now, I don't think at any position we've had runaway separation by any team, right? Like, so that's why it's going to be close. But right now, on paper, you would look at the Cubs and say center field, right field, left field, second base, shortstop. Like, there's going to be some positions where the Cubs are certainly in that mix. I am curious. We talked about briefly the weakness at third base the other day. Mm-hmm. Josh Harrison's still out there. Would he interest you as a backup plan or not? He was cut, right?
Josh Harrison?
Yeah, I believe he's out there. Now, if he would come super cheap, would he be a backup plan at third base for you?
What's the I would have to look specifically at the corresponding move because the guy off the last guys on the list on your depth chart are what? Probably Patrick Wisdom, Nick Madrigal, Miles Mastrobuoni. I don't know if I want Josh Harrison over any of those three.
He just got released 2 days ago.
Yeah, he's out there. I mean, he could play third base. I know he's played third base.
Well, let's ask the Sox guy because he played for the Sox a couple years ago. Sox guys, would you
Josh Harrison or Patrick Wisdom?
should the Cubs go get Josh Harrison? Harrison does more.
Yeah, he plays second base.
Yeah,
he can play third.
Okay, but there's the question is should the Cubs sign Josh Harrison, who just got released 2 days ago?
Why sign Josh Harrison when you got Nick Madrigal at home?
He said, "Why sign Josh Harrison when you got Nick Madrigal at home?"
Right.
Herbie from the top rope.
Bodie. By the way, nobody ever mentions David Bodie, but Davey Bodie's sitting there.
I was going to say, our good buddy Gary Ross mentioned in the chat, don't forget to mention Jake Slaughter and David Bodie for the second base position. There it is. There's a couple of them.
You have Slaughter and Bodie, too.
A couple mentions of Jake Slaughter in there.
We're not talking third base. Well, I guess we are technically talking third base now, but third baseman is next week.
I'm not interested.
It jumped in my head. That's all.
I'm not interested in Josh Harrison. No, I'm not interested. Okay. I don't think they need him.
We'll revisit it next week when we grade that position.
Yeah. Now, Godfather said for Josh Harrison, if he's cheap, we'll take him. So he's always positive, but then he also does not like. He says this is like the grades at the end of the year. Everybody gets an A. Which we know how he felt about our end-of-season grades the last couple of years.
That would take them even closer to the luxury tax, and I think Jed just wants to steer clear of that for now until the deadline when he knows where the team is. So,
but Godfather, what position would you disagree with us? We have Seiya as the best right fielder, we have Bellinger as the best center fielder, and we have Nico as the best second baseman. We have the Cubs probably third or fourth in division at first base. And we said Happ. I think most of us said that we had to acknowledge, Corey wouldn't, but we acknowledged Yelich over Happ, but Happ was 2 in division. Which of those would you disagree with? Like, I'm not trying to give out A's to everybody, but we've hit some positive positions. First base and third base are not going to be as positive.
What about shortstop? Are you saying Ellie De La Cruz is better than Dansby? Okay.
No. We haven't
done shortstop yet.
We haven't done shortstop. We haven't done third. That's probably Monday, and then we have to do the pitchers and catchers too.
Okay.
Well, it's also like this is NL Central base. Yeah. Like we're not, like some of these guys obviously would move down the list if we're including the entire National League or the entire 30 teams of Major League Baseball. Yeah, but we're looking at this as an NL Central thing and where they stack up. But this is kind of what we keep talking about, that this division, even though like the way we keep ranking it, it feels like the Pirates keep ending up at the bottom of the rankings. But, like, some of those players, even there, are still solid to good players, right? Like, the division is pretty full of good teams right now. Even if they're not all world beaters, a lot of these teams could end up, hell, like, the fifth-place team could end up right around 500, for all, like, which isn't, like, a bad thing for a last-place team in a division.
The Pirates have a starting rotation that's going to be competitive this year. They have 2 to 3 guys that are going to be above average pitchers this year. I'm hesitant to say,
like you were about to say very good.
I'm not there yet, but the Pirates are not going to be a pushover like they were. They're building to something. They don't have the infrastructure the Cubs or the Reds do right now, but they're getting there. And O'Neal Cruz is a stud, and I agree. I think that's a good take. The last place team will be around 500. I like that.
Yeah, and that wouldn't be surprising because if it is the Pirates, like they still have good players in that lineup and good young players, guys that are establishing themselves at the big league level. So you're talking about them, the Reds, the Brewers, who may take a step back, but are taking a step back from being like a good team. Like
still have 3 or 4 good
and
bats in that lineup.
Still good bats in that lineup. Freddie Peralta's still there, right? Like the new manager was the bench coach for Craig Counsell, so it's not like it's a brand new guy coming in there. Pat Murphy, yeah. So, and then obviously the Cardinals were bad last year, but they still have a lot of good talent on there. I honestly, I'm still looking at it like I'm expecting a pretty big bounce back for them this year. And then you got the Cubs, who we all say could and probably should be a playoff team with the roster they have, right? Like, things happen in baseball, so don't guarantee it. But, like, this is a team that you look at and be like, yeah, there's a pretty good chance they make the playoffs. So, yeah, what I'm saying is just that regardless of the rankings that we have and who ends up 5th on these rankings, a lot of these teams are a lot closer than maybe the outside thinks. And so whether the Pirates are finishing 5th in a couple of these rankings or not, like, I still expect them to be a pretty good team, or not a pretty good team, but like a team that could be a little scary, a little dangerous in this division and make some noise in this division. They're going to be teams you got to look out for.
Yeah, if you had to pluck some players off the roster of another team in the division, the Pirates would still have some players where you'd say, I'd take that guy. Right now,
if you add
closer, right?
What's that?
Is Bednar the closer? Like, if you had a keeper league, is Bednar still the Pirates' closer?
I think
yes,
so.
he is.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he's under club control for another 3 years.
He might be the best closer in the division.
Exactly.
You would take Bednar and you would take Key Brian Hayes on this Cubs team without even batting an eye. You add those two players to this Cubs team, and this Cubs team's a World Series contender.
Take Jack Sawinski's bat.
Yeah, absolutely.
For sure.
So
there's again, like I said,
Cary Grove legend Quinn Priester, first-round pick, will crack the Pirates rotation this year. So shout out Northwest Burbs.
So it's just like there's really good players all throughout this division on every single team, and I don't think any of these teams could be overlooked in this season versus like previous seasons where that may have been a lot more true. 60-win teams and such. Like, I don't see that happening to any of these teams in this division right now, unless injuries and stuff like that happen, and that's baseball. But on paper right now, going into the season, a lot of these teams project to be at least decent.
I'm really looking forward to seeing your guys' shortstop rankings because that'll be a good one. I think that there's a big argument to be had. So when you guys do that show, I will be looking forward to watching that one. I'm doing that next week at some point, probably.
Yeah,
probably Monday. Shortstop, third base.
Okay. Ooh, that'll be a good show. You're gonna want to watch that one because this division's got some good shortstops in it. I appreciate you guys letting me on. This was a lot of fun. I'm glad I could be here. I'm glad I could hang out with you guys. It's always a blast. So it's
thanks for coming on.
Yeah, man. I'm glad you're feeling a little better too. So hopefully we'll see you back in studio next week.
I'm planning on being there Monday.
Yeah,
let's go.
So hopefully Stucky's back. He's out of the penalty box by Monday. Corey and Brendan tomorrow, Sarah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's the pre-recorded show.
Yeah, Corey and Brendan will have a show for you tomorrow.
They'll be on at 1:30 tomorrow.
On at 1:30, as usual, and then
a weekend of Blue Moon.
Yeah, well, the weekend of Blue Moon. That's right.
On Saturday, Blue Moon on Sunday, Blue Moon breakfast Monday.
It's the NCAA tournament, man. Lots of Blue Moon to go around today.
Yeah.
And this weekend.
And then next week is opening week. Can't wait.
Wow.
We're here almost. A couple more days. Thank you guys for checking out the CHGO Cubs podcast presented by Blue Moon. All spring training coverage sponsored by Blue Moon. I'm Kevin Wells for Ryan Herrera and Luke Stuckmeyer. Thank you guys for joining us. They'll talk to you on Monday. Have a great weekend and go Marquette.
No, boo.
We all silly like the mayor.